So although it may not have occurred to you before, whilst you were fully engaged in your trying to conceive journey, you may find that one of the things and one of the worries that starts to pop up once you realize you definitely won't be having children is, who's going to be there for me when I'm old? And the thing is, this is not something you may have thought about before. I mean, I remember that I never thought about it all the time I was trying to conceive. And yet, when I was one of the original co-founders of AWOC in the UK in 2014, and that's Aging Without Children, I remember we would have these kind of events, and sometimes there would be parents at the events. It was, I think, when we were doing some work with a white paper in the Parliament, and parents would sort of say to me, well, I didn't have children so they could take care of me when I'm old. And I'd say, yeah, I get that. You know, all the time I was hoping to be a parent. That thought never entered my mind. So I get that you didn't. I said, no, I can understand that. So I'm wondering, so what plans and systems are you putting in place for your old age so that that definitely doesn't happen? Do you know what the answer was? Crickets. They hadn't put any other plans in place. They weren't thinking about who was going to take care of me when I'm old, because unconsciously, without even realizing it, they knew they didn't have to think about it. They knew they could kick that thought process further down the line. They had the kind of the unconscious luxury of going, I'll think about that later. And you know, if I point that out to people, they say, well, not everyone's children take care of you when we're old, you know, something we're all going to have to worry about. Data doesn't back that up. Data has shown that only 6% of adult children are not involved in some way with their elderly parents or their old parents' needs. Now, one of the issues is that most people's thought around who's going to take care of me when I'm old automatically go to extreme vulnerability and dependency, to sort of looking after someone who needs kind of almost nursing care, who needs feeding and bathing and looking after. But that's actually not everyone's experience of being old. That's advanced old age for most people, but not even for most people. A lot of people make it right through to advanced old age without ever needing care like that. The thing that actually really makes a difference to having children is remaining living independently as long as you want. It's about having someone from the younger generation around to help fix the skybox. It's to update your iPad and show you how the new online banking system works. It's to get some things down from the top shelf. It's to mow the lawn. It's to drive you to a hospital appointment. It's to really, really be your contact with the world, to help you in subtle ways with sort of the practical tasks of modern living. I mean, adult life has absolutely completely changed, you know, since I became an adult 18 until now. Being an adult has completely changed, and it's always changing. There's always new technology, new things happening. And if you don't have an advocate and representative from a younger generation, it can be really hard to keep up with all that. My partner's 92-year-old mum lives with us. So I have a daily experience of, and she's great. Her mobility is getting very poor, but apart from that, in every other way, she's doing great. But we spend a lot of time building our lives around making sure she's okay and doing things for her. And like I said, fixing the skybox, helping her with her iPad, helping her get to places that she doesn't know, sorting things out. And that can be the thing that actually can be hard to have when you don't have children, but it's also something that you can plan for. Something that I'm doing is, I'm nearly 60 now. And since I was 55, I've kind of been really engaging with the topic of my own aging without children and how society has changed, because with so many people having so fewer children, and then so many people's children not, being childless, there are a lot fewer people around to take care of the older generation than there used to be. And when governments and politicians say families should do more, number one, that's code for women. Women should be doing more caring. Number one, there are much less of them around than there used to be. Number two, they're all at work. We're not selfishly not caring for elders in our community. You know, those women who used to be around in the community, perhaps when you were growing up and were when I were growing up, they are all at work now. And not because they all want to be. We now live in a dual income economy. It's very, you know, you've got to be incredibly rich to stay at home now and not work. So a lot of that informal care in the community that was provided free of charge by women has been monetized and turned into a corporate product. They're all at work and you now have to pay for all that care. So it's a big culture change. And as a woman who is aging without children myself, I think for me, it's going to be about how do I actively create intergenerational connections in my local community. And I'm writing and talking about that kind of thing a lot. I have a project called Gateway Elder Women, which is really focused on this. There'll be a book coming out in a few years' time on it, but it's like really practical. If I want the younger generation around me as I'm old, I have to invest in those relationships now. And that's not necessarily just nephews and nieces. A lot of us don't have nephews and nieces, or they live too far away from us. It's about in my local community. Online is wonderful. You can do a lot online, but you also need people locally to use. So I would say that AWOC is still going in the UK. I'll give you a link to that later. There are groups you can join locally where you can meet other people who are aging without children in your area. And I guess I want to just encourage you. You're probably a bit younger than me. I'm going to be really busy on this for the next 20 years. So hopefully by the time you get to the age that you need, I'm hoping that my work will have, just as it has around childlessness, will have really moved the needle on this conversation, and that there will be new housing opportunities, new intergenerational opportunities, and that people will be talking and thinking about this in a new way. So there are things you can do now. I think, like I said, you need to really think about what kind of old person you want to be. Now, when you were a child and people used to say, who do you want to be when you grow up? You had ideas, and it was an okay question to ask. Maybe at a certain point in your life, you know, one of those questions might, I want to be a mum when I grow up, you know, and that hasn't happened. But you now get to have the chance to have new dreams for your life. And one of the things I'd really like to encourage you to do is to ask yourself, what kind of old person do I want to be? Who is my role model for the kind of old person I want to be? And what steps can I take to become that version of me? Because your old age is not something that's over there. It's you. You know, it's not this kind of really scary thing that you're imagining, that you're projecting your fears onto. It's you, but older. So you can start to develop, if you want to have lots of people around you, if you want to live in a big shared house with lots of multiple generations in it, how do I start to bring those kinds of connections into my life? Now, whilst you're healing and grieving your childlessness, it may be too much to try and project yourself into that. But I want you to know that when you're ready to start thinking about this, and it is really hard to think about it, most people don't want to. 50% of people don't even have a will. That is how strong our denial of aging and old age and death. In the UK and USA, 50% of people don't have a will. Really important you do that. Really, it's actually a really confronting and really healing thing to do if you haven't got one. And as a childless person, can bring up an awful lot about, you know, what am I leaving for the next generation? Who's going to have my stuff? What's going to happen to me? What's my funeral going to be like? Who do I want to be there? Now, all of those things don't have to be in your will, but you'll find yourself thinking about them. I don't recommend doing that right now. But when you're ready, do it with other childless people, because it makes it a lot less confronting if you do it with others and you support each other emotionally with all of the kind of the paperwork that you need to get in place, so that you don't have to worry so much in old age. And I will say one thing about wills: you don't have to have any money. It's not about how much you have to leave for the next generation. It's actually just, if I were to die tomorrow, what would I like to happen with my things and my affairs? And if you don't leave a will, it leaves so much extra work for the people around you to deal with. You know, dying intestate, as it's called, is probably one of the biggest money makers for the legal industry there is. It's a lot more expensive and distressing for the people who will be taking care of your affairs if you haven't left a will, and it can be very cheap to make one. So that's my that's my TED talk on leaving a will done for today. So I think also really important to remember that the things that will help you live a happy childless life will help you have a better childless old age, meaningful community, self-compassion, deep friendships, meaningful activities, and a cast iron bullshit detector against pronatalism and, in time, ageism. So just being a fulfilling version of you is kind of all you need to do right now, is just step into a bigger version of yourself. The person who is going to have all the losses inside her, but is also going to be moving forward as a wise old person. Because as Saint Oprah said, what is wisdom? It is nothing but healed wounds. So, I have some resources around it that I will share in the logistics in the slide. I'll say that again. And all of the resources that I've mentioned will be on the resource slide and the PDF as well. So when you feel ready to engage with it, all of this will be there for you. But please don't feel you need to do it right now. Just know that it's there when you feel ready.